You know, there's more to life than only doing the things that you're supposed to do. I'm supposed to get to work on time. I'm supposed to be a full time mom. I'm supposed to pay bills. I'm supposed to keep my credit right. Have you ever questioned, isn't there more? And what happens if my life goes off the rails? Am I supposed to make it back? Today on The Sales Life with Marsh Bice, I'm going to tell you of a term called Outlaw Logic. And it's a philosophy that actor Mathew McConaughey and his family have lived by. And I'm going to show you where it exists and how you can apply it to your sales life. If you're tired of settling, then we better get to selling. Welcome to The Sales Life with Marsh Bice. All right, TSL, let's get it. Outlaw Logic. I'm telling you, this is a term that is going to radically change your life. Because you're going to find that it exists in every scene of your life. And it's free for the taking. Outlaw Logic is a term that I almost threw away, literally. I'm a fan of Mathew McConaughey, and I saw him on the cover of AARP magazine. My mother-in-law had it. And because I'm such a fan of his, I asked her if I could take it. She said, yeah, I'm done with it. And it stayed with me for months. It ended up everywhere. It was in the back of my journal. It was in my book sack. It was inside my truck. It was on the floor at my office at work. It just stayed with me the whole time. And finally, when I was cleaning up, I said, man, I'm sick of seeing this magazine. And I said, let me just skim through the article real quick, just see if I see something there. And those two words, Outlaw Logic, caught my eye. I said, what is that? So I backed up a few paragraphs and I read what it is. McConaughey's words, Outlaw Logic is the individualism of one's thinking. And instead of following the flock of supposed to, it creates a path the way it's going to be. So you've been living your whole life primarily on supposed to. People have told you how you're supposed to look, how you're supposed to talk, how you're supposed to write, how you're supposed to dress, what school you're supposed to go to, where you're supposed to work, what friends you can have, what associations you can keep. Everything is supposed to. And you were born a superhighway. Yet today, you live a life of an old beaten path. It's like a mule path, actually, leading to the summit of Mount Supposed to. And it's frustrating, isn't it? It's frustrating because supposed to is waiting for permission from someone else. And based on their standards and their qualifications and their judgment, we fall in line with supposed to. But what happens when you lack the resources? What happens when you lack the qualifications? What happens when you're from the wrong lineage? You're from the wrong side of town. What happens when you don't look like or act like everyone else? What happens when your life's turned completely upside down? When others are counting you out, Outlaw Logic says, I'm still counting. And Outlaw Logic, when you apply it to your life, it puts the phrase says who into action. From the article and from my own personal life, I want to give you some context on the philosophy behind Outlaw Logic and how you can spot it in your own life. Mathew McConaughey was raised in a family governing Outlaw Logic. So much so that he wasn't allowed to use the word can't. He actually got whippings if he used the word can't. So he learned through Outlaw Logic how to negotiate his way through life. And it served him well because he ended up in Australia, way out in the bush, couldn't return back to the States. No one could find him. And he had to live with his crazy ass family. He said, I was lost and confused, but I never thought I can't. So I applied Outlaw Logic and instilled some disciplines to keep my head in the game and my feet on the ground. Outlaw Logic was so effective that it totally transformed his life when he got back to the United States. See, sometimes what seems like a curse, the worst possible situation, it's what Mathew McConaughey was in. He was in like the worst possible situation. But instead of sitting there throwing your hands up, saying, what was I supposed to do? Outlaw Logic instead says, what's the thing I need to do? And puts in some governing principles to help push through and propel up and out and on with your life. His mom is the queen of Outlaw Logic. His mom taught for 39 years. Yet she didn't have a degree. She applied Outlaw Logic. When she would go to a new school, she would tell them, my paperwork is coming from the other school. Now, where's my classroom? And she was so good with the students and the other faculty that they stopped asking. She bluffed her way in there. Tom Brady, another classic example of Outlaw Logic, where most quarterbacks his age are looking to just be on a roster and ride it out as a backup player, waiting for the Hall of Fame jacket. Tom Brady looked around and said, says who? I mean, I get the fact that I'm getting older, but who says that I can't play? Who says that I can't adjust my diet and my exercise regimen and make the adjustments to not just play, but to dominate? Many years ago, I found myself divorced, bankrupt, broke, demoted, and very dark. Society says, with all of that, you're supposed to be washed up. But I applied Outlaw Logic to my life. Nothing changed for me until I moved from complaining to explaining. And I began to shape my story differently. Because if I can shape the narrative, then I can determine my results. See, I was supposed to, given the darkness, given the bottom of the rung that I was on, I was supposed to let my health go. Says who? See, when I couldn't win in any area of my life, I could still win my health. And that was the only thing that I was winning. So every day, 30 minutes to an hour, I was on that road. Some days, man, I would come in, change shoes, change clothes, and go right back out the door. Because I knew that if I was given the space to think, I would fall into the spell of what I was supposed to do and just give up. I couldn't do it. Outlaw Logic. Because I was broke, I ate dollar tuna packs and spinach every single day. That's all the money I had. Couldn't eat out. But it didn't mean I had to eat fried food and shorten my life either. Outlaw Logic. When I was demoted, I was supposed to quit. Go find another job, the same title somewhere else. But I applied Outlaw Logic. I showed up in a suit and went to work. I was just looking for a rung to my ladder. Outlaw Logic. When the door is slammed, Outlaw Logic says find a window. And if there is no window, you find a crack. And if there is no crack, you kick the wall until you create one. And then once you can get your fingers in that crack, you start pulling yourself up and out. You got more to offer in life than what you're supposed to do. And your stock may be low right now, but your contribution is high. Don't conform any longer to only doing what you're supposed to do. Reignite your life and look for ways that you can apply Outlaw Logic and totally change your life. Where is an area in your life today that you can apply Outlaw Logic? Please share today's episode with someone who needs to apply Outlaw Logic to their life. You can message me directly at thesaleslife1@gmail.com, thesaleslife1@gmail.com. Remember, the greatest sale that you will ever make is to sell you on you, because you're more than enough. Stay amazing. Stay in the sales life.